2 News Works for You starts right now.
Good morning. It is Friday, July 20th. I'm Dina Silk.
And I'm Justin Wilfon. Meteorologist George Flickinger is here as well. The time is now 5:29. We will get to George with the latest on this hot weather in just a little bit. First, though, we're going to get the latest on the mass shooting in Colorado.
Tragic story out of Aurora, Colorado. Inside this movie theater right here, confirmed 14 dead, at least 50 injured. NBC has a special report right now. We're going to join Matt Lauer.
This is an NBC News Special Report. Here is Matt Lauer.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Matt Lauer in New York. We're following breaking news in Colorado, a mass shooting at a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado. That's just outside of Denver. At least 15 people are dead, 50 others are injured, and police say they have a suspect in custody. According to eyewitnesses, that suspect entered this movie theater, the Century Theater complex, for the midnight showing of The Dark Knight Rises. He came to the theater wearing a costume or combat gear. Some reports say he was wearing a riot helmet, perhaps a bulletproof vest, carrying at least one weapon. We now know he had 3 weapons. According to some witnesses, he set off some kind of device, explosive device, perhaps a smoke bomb, and then opened fire seemingly in a random fashion. This was the first showing of this summer blockbuster, so the theaters were very crowded. This movie was showing in at least 2 theaters at that complex. And reports are the suspect, who is in custody, may have told police that he had explosives either in other parts of that theater, in his car, or in his home. We have seen some footage early this morning of a police robot going through a car that was in the parking lot. Apparently the man, the suspect, was arrested near the parking lot. A police robot going through a vehicle looking for explosive devices. We also have reports that a SWAT team has surrounded an apartment in the Aurora area that is believed, not confirmed, but believed to be the apartment where this suspect lives. A lot of people at this theater, because this was the first midnight showing of this very popular movie franchise, apparently showed up wearing some kind of costume that may have allowed this suspect to enter the theater without raising suspicions until, of course, he set off that explosive device. I mentioned we're hearing he now was reported to have 3 guns. He was apprehended near the parking lot. We have reports of police officers, and this will give you an idea of how dramatic this scene was. Police officers responding to that scene, seeing victims of the shooting and realizing those victims were in such severe condition that they were putting those victims in the backs of their cruisers and taking them straight to the hospital, not waiting for ambulances to arrive. Let's bring in KUSA's Brandon Ritterman. He's on the phone with us. Brandon, what else can you tell us?
Well, it's been an absolutely insane morning out here, and yeah, you described the chaos of the scene quite well, Matt. There was, I was just over closer to the movie theater, and you could see popcorn bags strewn on the ground. Clearly a packed house at 3 different screens that were showing just after midnight the new Batman movie. People were there, they were excited, and some of the witnesses that I talked to were absolutely stunned at first. They thought it might be part of the movie. There was actually a 12:01 showing in Theater 8. We believe the shooting happened in Theater 9, and some of the bullets, according to one of the witnesses I talked with, may have come through the wall into Theater 8. But they were at a point in the movie where there was an action scene, there was shooting going on, and then they heard more popping. They thought it might be some part of the movie, and then sort of slowly realized something's wrong here. And they started noticing that people were injured, and then all of a sudden the theater alarm starts going off, and people realize something's gone terribly wrong. They were evacuated out into a parking lot near there where they had to stand for quite some time, and we heard several witnesses describing to us lots of injured people being brought out of the theater, some of them walking, some of them not looking responsive, and as we know now, we have reports that 15 people were killed, at least 10 of them on the scene here, several dying in hospitals that they were taken to in the Denver metro area as well. So an absolutely tragic morning here in Aurora, and the community is still trying to piece together the exact extent of what happened here.
Yeah, Brandon, I know that the wounded are being taken to 3 local trauma centers. When we went on the air a little earlier, there were reports that 10 had died, and in just an hour or an hour and 15 minutes, that number, as we mentioned, up to 15 dead, 50 wounded. I know it's very early, Brandon, in this investigation, but I did mention that a police SWAT team is in an area, a neighborhood of Aurora, at some sort of an apartment complex believed to be where the suspect lives. Can you tell me anything more about that?
Well, we understand that from the suspect himself, there was mention of bomb materials, and so that has elevated everyone's sense of caution and urgency in this case. So police want to get there and identify whether there's anything that they need to be concerned about in the home. They're also sweeping this theater and the surrounding shopping mall. I mean, what you think of as a regular shopping mall with department stores. We've seen officers sweeping inside of this mall, which is sort of across the large parking lot from the movie theater itself. So they've got this very large scene here that they're trying to comb over and make sure there's not a remaining threat at this time.
And yet, even as they're at the residence of this suspect or this person they have in custody, no indication of that person's identity or any motive in this.
They have not released any of that. We're expecting at 11 o'clock local time there's going to be another press conference, and we're hoping to get some of those details then. But for now, they're just saying that they have one man in custody. Pardon me, there's a car alarm going off over here.
All right.
But they have one person they have in custody that they believe may be the only shooter. Several of the witnesses that we've spoken with told us that there was one gunman in this case. So we have high hopes, at least, that this is the end of the police search for a person. But as I alluded to, they've heard about some bomb-making materials.
Right.
They want to make sure that they're very cautious and that there's not still a threat left by the person responsible.
All right, Brandon Ritterman of KUSA. Brandon, thank you very much for your reporting. I want to go on the phone right now to Pete Williams, our Chief Justice correspondent. And Pete, as you join us, we understand the FBI says they're working along with Aurora Police. Is there some thought that this could be something more than just some sort of a lone deranged gunman?
Not at this point, Matt. It is early in the investigation, and of course, because it's a murder case, the local police will have the lead on it. But they say at this point they find no indication of any connection to terrorism. Now, you may think, well, an act like this is by its very definition that. But I mean, in the conventional sense of some kind of a political statement or some kind of a act of a traditional terrorist group, so far they see no indication of that.
All right, Pete Williams, thank you very much. Stay tuned, and if any other information comes in, please let me know. Again, if you're just joining us this morning, we're covering a tragic and breaking story, developing story out in Aurora, Colorado, which is really a very close suburb of Denver, Colorado, just about 10 or 12 miles to the east of the Denver metropolitan area. At about 12:30 a.m. local time, Colorado time, police responded to calls of a shooting at a multiplex theater complex called the Century Theater Complex there. Reports of multiple gunshots going off. We know now that a gunman walked into one of the theaters there dressed in a riot helmet, a bulletproof vest, carrying at least one weapon, set off some sort of incendiary device, perhaps a smoke bomb, and then began shooting at random. We know now that 15 people have been killed. 50 people have been injured, many of those injured being rushed by police cruiser to local trauma centers. We have no idea of the suspect's identity, although police say they have the suspect in custody. That person apparently or reportedly told them that he may have hidden explosives in other parts of the theater. He may have had explosives in his vehicle. He was apprehended near that vehicle, and he apparently told police he may have explosives or explosive devices in his home. A SWAT team is now on that location. But this was a midnight showing of The Dark Knight Rises, a highly anticipated summer movie, part of a popular movie franchise. Some of the people who showed up for that screening or that showing of that movie were wearing costumes themselves, so it is possible that this gunman wearing a riot helmet and bulletproof vest did not raise suspicions as he entered the theater, but he certainly did when he set off that incendiary device and then opened fire randomly. There are all kinds of eyewitness reports of people severely injured being taken, carried out of that theater and into cruisers and off to trauma centers. We right now have KUSA's Matt Fleener. He is at a high school in Aurora where witnesses are being interviewed. Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matt. We are just south of the scene, the Century 16 Theater at Gateway High School here in Aurora. I'll have my photojournalist go right back into that gymnasium right here at Gateway High School, where there are dozens of witnesses who are being debriefed. They've sectioned off the debriefings of these witnesses into the different theaters that people were in inside that multiplex. As you said, parents have showed up here at Gateway High School asking how their children are, wondering if their children were inside that theater. Many of them got text messages or phone calls from their kids who were inside the theater. They've been asking for and looking for grief counselors who are on scene here dealing with all of the witnesses that were inside. We're told that, as you've been reporting, that there was this gunman who came in. What we're hearing was the emergency exit, according to eyewitnesses. He threw what we're hearing was a smoke bomb across the movie screen, and then smoke went off. Smoke went off inside of the theater. Lots of people who are here still being debriefed at this hour, and we're going to hear much more from witnesses as this morning continues.
Yeah, and as we heard, Matt, some people in that movie screening, and The Dark Knight Rises is an action thriller to say the least, thought that perhaps this was some kind of stunt that was actually associated with the film. Obviously, that turned out not to be the case. We understand that President Obama has been notified of this shooting in Aurora, Colorado. We have no response from the White House at this moment. We also have been told that the Aurora police will be holding some sort of a news conference at 11 o'clock a.m. local Colorado time. And at that press conference, we hope and would expect to learn a lot more about what happened and perhaps the identity of the man they now have in custody who may be responsible for the deaths of 15 people and for wounding 50 others at this movie screening in Aurora, Colorado, shortly after midnight local time there. We're going to have much more on this story coming up on Today. I'm Matt Lauer in New York. Thanks for watching.
Well, as he said, much more coming up on Today and much more coming up on our show as well between now and 7 o'clock.
Yes, and of course, back here at home, our big story is the heat.